All right, here we go. Facebook. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize it wasn't clicking for some reason. So I'm late, but I'm not late. I was already on IG. So come on in really quick. I'm going to introduce myself. Of course, if you're catching this on a replay, hashtag replay. Tonight, we're going to be talking about just a few FAQs, just some Q&A. If you have accounting and tax questions, be sure to drop them below. I've already introduced myself to Facebook, but for those on, to IG, those on Facebook, YouTube, I am Tawana Bryant Osborne, the transparent accountant on IG. I try to operate in transparency and in integrity. I definitely do operate in both. And I'm here in place to help you with proactive, not reactive accounting and tax planning strategies. And I want you to be able to build long-term wealth. In order to do that, you have to plan. You have to plan accordingly. So what I wanted to do is come in with a few, just make sure I get some questions answered. Again, if you have questions during this live regarding your accounting, regarding your taxes, and why do I say accounting and taxes? Because your accounting has to be right. Your books have to look good in order for your taxes to be right, in order for you to have maximum savings. I am a tax strategist, so I look at tax strategies in everything that I do. If I'm doing your bookkeeping, it's more than just bookkeeping, it's accounting, because I am looking at the big picture. I am looking at it from a taxation standpoint as well as from a business standpoint. We are here to diagnose and prescribe you the right things that you should have, right? You don't go to the doctor and expect them to just allow you to come in and they're prescribing you all these things, but they don't know anything about your history, right? So same thing here. We want to diagnose, but we have to communicate with you. You have to communicate with us as well to be able to prescribe you with the right strategies for your specific business. I always say this, it is not a one size fits all cookie cutter model. So a lot of things and a lot of times we may see strategies and things on social media, be it we may see a lot of things on social media, be it TikTok, be it YouTube, and I call it TikTok University and YouTube University, but we may see a lot of things out there, but does that strategy specifically apply to my business, my lifestyle, my tax and business situation? It may not apply. So what works for someone else may not necessarily work for you. And so it's important that you get that specific strategy. I don't want to go in there getting an insulin shot and I don't require insulin. Some things, if you put it in place because someone else has it in place, or you're receiving these prescriptions because someone else has this prescription and it makes them feel great, your body may not react like that. Same thing applies in accounting and taxes. The other thing is, it is important for you to understand that you have to communicate with whomever your accounting and tax professional is. Communication is key. I am going to try to throw this thing on my personal Facebook while we're gearing for specific questions I have here. Like I said, I'm not going to be on to go through them any. Let's see. Let's try to hop in here real quick. 1 second. Sorry, guys. But I want to make sure that I am sharing this appropriately across the board. Okay. 1 second. Let me get it shared and I can hop off of here. Share. And be sure to share this to your stories, share this on your platforms as well. Someone may be able to use this information. You never know who needs the information and may not be. And that's why I try to cover a wide variety of things, just because there's a lot of times that we have people who don't want to ask questions, or they don't want to put themselves on the spot and be in the comments. So like I said, just make sure that I make sure I cover a wide variety of things just to be able to help everyone, because everybody does not want to necessarily come forward with questions. All right. The other thing I want to do is empower you, empower you, empower you. I had an incident last week that made me feel a little um, off. As a business owner, entrepreneurship is difficult. People do not realize, and they may, friends, family, those closest to you may see that you may be constantly studying, training. They may see that you're doing all the things that is required for you to keep your business up. If you are not earning W-2 wages, and even if you are earning W-2 wages in addition to your entrepreneurship income, it's still something. You didn't go into business for your business to fail. You went into business to thrive. You went into business for income. A lot of people hopefully want to leave. Well, a lot of people want to hopefully one day leave their full-time job. And a lot of times we have people that may throw daggers. Okay. They may make off the wall comments when you have to deal with your business. Don't let that discourage you. I'm going to say that again. Do not let those around you discourage you. They did not get your vision. They did not get your insight for your business. And you want to keep pushing. Put that off to the side. Just accept it as they're not where you're at. They're not where you're trying to go, and keep it moving. Okay. So let me start by asking this question, and when I'm going in it from this perspective, it's going to be me asking a question and then answering the question. Okay, so what is determined to be a trade or a business? Because a lot of time people don't understand specifically what a trade or a business is. I get the comment a lot of times, well, I'm not going to file taxes on that because I didn't make any money with it this year. Well, that's not what a trade or business is. Your business or the trade is generally an activity that's carried on for a livelihood or in good faith to make a profit. You are in business with the intent to make a profit, right? We're not in business to go broke. We're not in business to be struggling, So what are 4 determining rules? 1, regularity of your activities, regularity of your transactions, some production of income. Once it comes, the IRS understands that you are not going to be booming necessarily in your first year of business. There are some people who do. A lot of times that is not the case. Okay. And then ongoing efforts to further the interests of your business. Are you posting? Are you regularly reaching out? Are you trying to get leads? Are you trying to make communications with someone to sell a trade or a service? That is what a trade or business is. Okay. I wanted to make sure I covered that because a lot of people don't understand what business is, and they may not want to file because they didn't produce an income. But what happens if you have high W-2 wages, but you need these losses to offset that income to reduce your tax liability? Strategy. So make sure that you don't just look at it from your eyes only. As always, I say contact a professional, which leads me into my next question. Whose responsibility is it to determine your filing status when you are filing those taxes? Now, if you're using a professional, your professional should be giving you that information from their professional standpoint to say, if you're married by December 31st, you should be filing married filing separate or married filing joint. Those are your options. Okay. Not head of household and single, married filing separate or married filing joint. So your preparer really should be determining the correct filing status. If you're self-preparing, you'll be responsible for the correct filing status, and you're not exempt because you've self-prepared. The IRS does not care. The other thing is, if you file incorrectly and then when you go to get financial aid or complete the FAFSA, if you have filed incorrectly, it a lot of times shows there, and it holds people up from going to school. It holds your children up from going to school. And this is coming from someone that's a former I worked in financial aid. So I had to do amendments for people. I had to help people with, now again, it was a service because I had my business during that time, but you don't want to have to pay for an amendment because you didn't file correctly from the beginning. And a lot of times a client may want to dispute a filing status. You really can't dispute what the IRS has already indicated should be happening and how you should be filing. Okay. Now, if your interest income is below $10, what if it's below $10? Do you need a 1099 INT? No, not necessarily. And a lot of times you'll get answers from preparers, you'll get answers from accountants that says it depends. And it typically does depend on a lot of things. And there's so many variables in place that could determine what the answer is and how it applies to you. And that's why I say there is no cookie cutter model for any of this. Okay. Now, the law is the law. Okay. If you get caught up in an audit, the law is the law. But how does that law apply to you is dependent upon your situation. It depends on what your variables are. Now, with Bryant Business Solutions, how do you know where you're at in the process of tax preparation? Your current status is always available to you in your secure portal that we have for you, and it shows you where you're at in the process. It will have a checklist of tasks. If there's something that we're waiting on from you, and you may have, I don't know about anybody else. I'm managing many emails. If you happen to miss the email that comes out that says, hey, we're looking for this, it is definitely in your task as a checklist item. Then we send a follow-up Friday email out. And then after that, if we're not getting it, we're going to contact you. I understand, and we understand that, we're busy. Everybody is busy right now in trying to work their business. And you can get caught up in working your business. And then it's like, oh, she needs something from me. Why is it hasn't the process moved? And those are reasons why the process hasn't moved. But we do our due diligence to reach out to you. Now, question, what if I have a 1099 and you drive Uber, Lyft, Instacart, you do Shipt, or any other gig jobs? Those require a Schedule C, which, congratulations, you're now self-employed, and you will receive a 1099 NEC once you've earned $600 in income. Does that mean that you don't report it if you don't make at least $600? It depends. It depends on whether you're even required to file or not. You may not even have a filing requirement because that was your only income during the year. So again, make sure it applies to you in your specific situation as to whether or not you're going to actually file those taxes or not. Now, something I wanted to touch on was I wanted to talk a little bit about transportation as far as when you're filing your taxes. Sorry, I have a little person here, y'all, that she does not care if I'm live or not. She's been doing pretty good, but sometimes she does not care. But so a couple of things. One, regarding your business and filing travel expenses for when it comes to tax reform in your business, question, because I said I was going to let you know when it's a question. Are the business travel documentation rules different if I operate my business as a corporation versus a proprietorship? So are you an S Corp or are you a sole proprietor with an LLC? Remember, an LLC is a disregarded entity and it's recognized at the state level, but not at the federal level with the IRS, okay? So when we ask you, what is your entity structure? Your entity structure is LLC, but for tax purposes, you're either a sole proprietor, you're a partnership, or you're an S Corp or a C Corp, okay? Again, grab a copy of my entity structure book, ebook, and it'll break a lot of these down for you. So yes and no. Are the business travel documentation rules different based upon how you operate your business? And so what's not different about it? So with the different deductions that you have for lodging, meals, and other travel expenses, the rules governing receipts, okay, business reasons, canceled checks are the same for corporations, proprietorships, individuals, and employees. The rules are the same. But what's different is if you operate as a corporation, the corporation is a separate legal entity from you, the person who's filing that 1040 tax return. Okay, I'm sorry, got a call. That's filing that 1040 tax return with that pass-through income coming through. So you're now an employee of that corporation, and to get the best tax results, you need to know that because of the recent tax reform that's in place, employee business expenses that were deductible in past years for years 2000 through 2018 through 2025, you can't write that off if you're an employee. Okay, no way, shape, form, or fashion are you writing that off until 2025, and then some decisions are made from that point on. And that's good news, because you've never claimed your business travel deductions as an employee business with business expenses anyway, right? And that's because the tax law put those business deductions in that ugly category where expenses are reduced by 2% of your adjusted gross income and subjected to the totally unfair alternative minimum tax. Okay, so be glad you don't have to file with that. Now, because of tax reform, you have no choice if you want the deductions. You need the travel expenses on the corporation's books, not at the personal level. They need to be on the corporation's books, and you need to properly document them. If you pay the expenses personally, you need the corporation to reimburse you. Okay. And an expense report has to be in place. And this is why, I saw the other day someone said, oh, all you have to do is this, and this before y'all go spending all this money with your business. But how much is that going to cost you in the long run if you didn't do this, and this properly? The other thing is, if you use a corporate credit card or corporate checks for those expenses, you need to document the expenses for the corporate books, okay? So that the proper documentation is there. Do I have to keep a tax diary for my business travel? No, not necessarily, but the combination of the timely records you must keep must provide 4 elements, okay? The amount, the time, the place, and your business purpose. So, in speaking of documentation, as professional preparers, we have requirements. We have due diligence requirements. So if I start seeing some weird stuff and some funny numbers or funny things happening on your return, I may be asking you questions for substantiation of those items. I may ask you to substantiate that expense that you're telling me on your tax organizer you want to write off. If it is an obscene number, now, while I'm not going to go into tax strategy with you, I am going to let you know this is a red flag for the IRS. And if this number isn't quite accurate, and I will request in writing so that I can have my backup, because what happens is a lot of times people don't realize that we get penalized as well if we come on under audit, and we get fined, and our fines are not pretty. So when we're asking these questions as professional preparers, as for professional accountants, we don't want to put ourselves in a situation either I look good in a jumpsuit, but just not the orange one. So I'm not going to jail for nobody. I'm not doing no time and I'm not paying no fines. So I am going to ask you those questions that are relative to your business, so that I can ensure that we're doing the proper due diligence. My goal is to help you avoid an audit. Remember, proactive, not reactive accounting and tax planning strategies is what I look to put in place. I am a tax strategist. I am always going to look from a tax standpoint. I am always going to look at tax law and see how that applies to your situation. If it doesn't, the transparent accountant is going to tell you. I am going to let you know that this does not apply to you. A lot of times we want to do what everybody else is doing because it looks good. What may look good, it may not always be right. So we want to make sure that we're operating in honesty and integrity as we complete our tax returns, not based off of what feels good. And if it means that, here's the thing, the saying, more money, more problems. It's not necessarily more money, more problems. The more money you make, the more you really should be seeking to tax plan, because you want to minimize those taxes that you're paying out. How do you do that? With strategy. If you don't know the strategies to put in place, then guess what? You need someone who that's what they do to put those strategies in place for you so that you can pay the least amount of taxes legally, so that the IRS is not coming back to you. However, it does not mean that we are 100% exempt from audits. We're not. No one is. We can reduce our risk of audit, but what happens if, say, you have a preparer that you go to and they're under investigation, and that pool of returns that they want to look at just happens to be yours? That's why I say, don't ever think that you're 100% exempt from an audit. I had someone come to me once before and say, my preparer didn't do this and my preparer didn't do that. Well, one, your preparer operates with the information that you give them. Number two, that may not have applied to you, and it doesn't mean that that preparer did it wrong. They did it right based upon the information that they had, or based upon the information that you provided, and they may not have asked you any additional questions to substantiate. Now, I ask additional questions to substantiate because I want to cover myself, but I want you to be covered too. Again, my goal is to be proactive with this thing. My goal is to get ahead of this thing. My goal is to have an outlook. Now, I've never been an auditor. I have paid in my fair share. That Sally Mae, yeah, so I do have the educational backing, in the academic training as well. And I took my auditing classes, actually came out of my auditing class with an A because I enjoyed it. Nothing I want to do now, but I really thoroughly enjoyed auditing. So I have that in my repertoire, as well, so that I can, look from that perspective as well of, if this were to be audited, does it answer these specific questions to ensure that, you don't get hit with penalties and interest because they disallowed something. And then I'm connected with a community that has tax people who does tax audit representation as well, that can help you through that in the event that you do end up getting hit with an audit. I, have those people by my side as well, because like I said, no one is audit exempt. And I think a lot of times, we want to believe a lot of things that's out here. After COVID, of course, everybody went social media haywire. Everybody's an expert. And it's not so. Some people are just learning. Some people interpret things differently. So again, as I always say, make sure whoever you connect with, that it's a fit for both of you. But I wanted to, like I said, answer a few questions. Again, go grab my entity structuring ebook. It would be beneficial. I'll drop the link below. It's always in my the BBS bookstore. I'll go grab a copy of that. And I don't think I took the discount code off. Mm. From I didn't take the code off from Valentine's, so that's still on there. I think it's 15% off, or from Saturday, one of those discounts that I gave. It's still on there. So scroll back, look at what I've posted for, at least from Saturday. I know it hadn't been removed yet. I will get that removed tonight, though, probably by midnight or first thing in the morning. So go grab a copy of the Business Entity Structure ebook, and that'll help you with ensuring that your business is structured properly. Because when we go into these tax planning strategies, a lot of it is going to be based upon how your business is structured, and is that even the correct structure for your business. And that's where we start at when we look at tax planning. We're looking at your structure. That's one of the first 5 things that we look at. Again, we want to make sure we're maximizing those deductions that you have, you know, and in that you're taking those things that apply to you with those tax planning strategies. We're right now, our books are open. We are taking clients. We do still do tax preparation, even if you are not part of tax planning or CFO services. However, that's going to be going away soon, so get in there. All right. Like I said, I did not want to hold you long. It may not seem like it, but my sinuses are on fire. So I am not going to stay on here. It is 6:29, almost 6:30. So go have some dinner, enjoy the rest of your night, and be sure to catch us here next Tuesday at 6 p.m. for Tax Talk Tuesday. If you have a topic discussion or something that you want me to discuss with you on these lives, by all means, drop it in my DMs. Say, Tawana, hey, can you talk about this? Or drop it in the comments below. Tawana, can you talk about this? And I'll, depending on what it is, if it's within the scope of us being able to kind of address it without having to get into so much detail, because I don't want to confuse anyone, then by all means, drop it down, and I can let you know whether or not, or if that's something that we would have to discuss one-on-one, to go a little further in detail. And always book your 15-minute strategy call. They're still free right now. They're still free. So take advantage of that as well, because those will be going away also. So you guys have an amazing night. I am going to go get something for these sinuses and some spray, and it's probably going to knock me out early. So good night. I'll see you guys next week.